And Amy, so you heard from Jim Jordan, you heard from El Gallito, you heard from Chuck Krauthammer about the budget resolution to fund the government that Democrats are roundly celebrating. El Gallito open to it, but you also need to defund Homeland Security, and then he'll be a full-throated supporter. Yeah. Sean Spicer was asked about it, of course, at a daily press briefing, and here's the perfume he put on the pig.
But I think the president got a lot out of this bill, most specifically $21 billion to help rebuild the military. I think that is something that he was very proud to campaign on and is delivering on. That's probably the biggest thing. With respect to border security, he got $1.52 billion into the current language that's posted. I think that's a significant. And remember, I think people have to keep in context. We're talking about 2017 funding, right? So this is something that most presidents would walk into office and that would have been done.
Yeah, but it wasn't done. And so it was an opportunity. And that's the point that Jim Jordan makes. And it was an opportunity that Republicans walked away from yet again. And it was on matters that both the president as well as the Speaker of the House said were moral imperatives to the border wall funding and defunding Planned Parenthood, respectively. For more on this topic and many others, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Jonah Goldberg, National Review columnist, author of many great books, including Liberal Fascism and Tyranny of Cliches. Jonah, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's great to be here.
So that Republican Congress, we're focused so much on Trump's first 100 days. How about the Republican Congress's first 100 days?
Oh, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the theater?
Okay. There, I guess that's a review.
It hasn't been great. I think anyone who wants to ding, a guy I like a lot, Paul Ryan, for the fact that Congress did not have its ducks in a row on Obamacare repeal in place, that is a perfectly legit criticism. I like these Congressional Review Act deregulation things, but that is not, that'll take a while to have its effect. It's important, it's good, but it is not the kind of thing that, Trump promised in his first 100 days. And beyond that, it hasn't been great. And, to me, Spicer makes a perfectly fine point. Krauthammer, I guess, made this point last night on Special Report, that normally, this is really Obama's last budget, and it was pretty much in place, and yada, yada, yada. That's all fine. That's legit. The problem that Spicer, and really the problem that Trump has, is that this is the guy who promised he was going to come into Washington and be able to do it all. He said that, he was going to be able to bake 12-minute brownies in 7 minutes. He said that he was going to be able to, bake a boulder so heavy even he couldn't lift it. It was all going to be so easy and so simple, and he's the best deal maker, and everyone in Washington are a bunch of idiots, and he's got the best brain, and yada, yada, yada. And so when these guys then fall back on conventional, this is how the swamp works excuses for why he didn't get his stuff done, it doesn't work.
But he's in a bit of a trick bag on that too, because if he's too critical of establishmentarian Republicans, then he risks fomenting more internal discord than already exists.
Yeah, no, I'm perfectly willing to concede that Donald Trump is in a really rough situation. I agree with that. And part of his problem, one of the biggest things I was worried about was that Trump was going to sort of run away from Republicans and form a bond with Democrats.
Yeah.
But in his first 2 months, and I think ideologically he'd be fine with that, but the problem is he burnt those bridges. The way he ran the way he did his inaugural and the way he's done his first 100 days, very difficult. The Democrats have now learned the same lesson that Republicans learned after voting against the stimulus at the beginning of the Obama administration, that it is in their political interest to be fully opposed to the president of the United States. So he's now kind of trapped. He can't work with the Republicans because Republicans can't get it done, and he can't work with Democrats because the Democrats don't want anything to do with him.
But we can't give up hope on the Republican Party. So who in the party, or could it be Vice President Mike Pence, that's going to whip everyone into shape so everyone's on the same page?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Mike Pence has the clout. The problem is that Kate O'Byrne, my dear friend who recently departed, she always used to argue that, point out that in the Reagan administration, you didn't have to go check with the old man to figure out what you were supposed to do, because he was so clear in what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it that it empowered a lot of people lower down in the bureaucracy and the administration and out in the trenches the ability to say, okay, I know I'm on the same page as the boss. And the problem that Trump has is that no one really knows what page they're on. And so Mike Pence can only be empowered if he can deliver, if he can go to Trump and say, look, I can get Congress to come along. And he can only be empowered if he can go to Congress and say, look, I can get Trump to go along. And no one has that power because you can't get everyone to sing from the same page.
Well, but on some of the big issues, at least now, whatever confusion there was in previous weeks in the first 100 days, Wall Street Journal front page story, Donald Trump gambling big on healthcare victory, talking about the arm twisting that's being done by the White House in Congress to try and corral enough votes on Obamacare replacement 2.0 to call the vote as soon as Thursday of this week. So there can't be any confusion among House Republicans about where the president is on what's before them on this issue.
Right, that's fair. And I am done investing a lot in deadlines.
Yeah,
the vote's going to happen as early as this week. I mean, I've heard that literally every single week for the last 6 weeks. It'll happen when it happens. I'm in favor of any sort of reasonable Republican reform for Obamacare. But again, this is sort of the bind that Trump has for himself. He went around promising deductibles will be lower, benefits will be better, premiums will be lower, and everyone is going to be covered, and whatever Republicans push through is going to be bound by the rules of nature and the laws of reality, and it's not going to do everything everyone dreamed, and it's going to create all sorts of clips.
And as your colleague Rich Lowry points out in Nash Review, it was not just Trump, but Republicans in general that overpromised on Obamacare repeal and replace.
Yeah, look, the story of the last 15 years, almost, well, really at least the last 9, is the story of both parties overpromising and under-delivering. And that era hasn't ended. It's intensified. I mean, Obama, I'm giving Trump some grief this morning for overpromising. Obama was the guy who came riding in on his, flying unicorn, promising, to convert, leprechaun poop into renewable energy, and that, we were the ones we've been waiting for, and that the old politics are over, and yada, 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 and he couldn't get anything done either. And, and then Republicans under Obama promised that, you only need 40 senators to get rid of Obamacare. We're one election away from, getting rid of Obamacare and taking back our country. And then they get elected and they couldn't deliver. And this process is just, when historians look back on this, they're not going to say, oh, it began with Trump. They're not even going to probably say it began with Obama, but it's been going on for a very long time, where we have this sort of tribal set where each side tells its own base, we can get everything we want if you just turn out one more time, and then they disappoint them, and the base gets angrier and angrier about it.
Well, today's a big day. President Trump has his third phone call with Vladimir Putin, and he's coming under fire for offering, the president of the Philippines, Duterte, to come and visit. And also last night, he told Bloomberg News that a meeting is necessary to rein in Kim Jong-un, and he said it would be an honor to meet him.
Yeah, look, I have no problem with Trump meeting with Un if it would actually work. And it was a lot of the things that Trump proposes that caused the foreign policy establishment to set their hair on fire, I got no problem with. If, like, his call right after the election to Taiwan, I thought was great. If those things are part of a coherent, serious strategy about something, rather than these sort of ad hoc, see-your-pants one-offs, then I'm fine with him. But if it's just, we caught him on a Wednesday and he just had a burrito, so he's going to talk this way, that's not useful. And I can't see any argument for why the President of the United States would say he'd be honored to meet with Kim Jong-un. If he needs to meet with him, fine. But that I just thought was a sort of a silly statement on his part. And, I have no idea how those phone calls with Putin go these days. I mean, it used to be you would think his phone calls with Putin would end with each one saying, "No, you hang up first. No, you hang up first." But, things are pretty testy between us and Russia right now. And that whole Trump is Putin's pawn thing is a much heavier lift for his opponents to make.
Speaking of Russia, since everything old is new again in Russia with the Soviet KGB at the helm, we just celebrated May Day. I don't know how you celebrate, probably throwing Molotov cocktails like everybody else.
I liquidated the kulaks in my neighborhood.
There you go. But I just wanted to tee one up for you because the New York Times making its op-ed pages available to one Vivian Gornick to wax nostalgic about communism in America when it was ascended in the 40s and 50s and how her parents, because she's a red diaper baby, like, say, David Axelrod, how her parents and the other working class hard scrabble types were brought to the Communist Party through its passion for structure and eloquence of rhetoric.
Yeah, no, I found the whole thing kind of, it was kind of hilarious. It was kind of like watching a really good Washington spin artist just sort of skate around all of the elephants in the room. And, it was ultimately a morally reprehensible piece. But I've come when I read almost anything about communism in the New York Times, I've come to understand that that's what I should expect. But what I thought was sort of fascinating about the piece is the way she had to sort of talk about how the really decent communists were the ones who never went to the Communist Party headquarters, were never part of the actual machinery of the party. And the reason she had to distance the good communists from those people is because those people were all evil sons of bitches who were treacherously working for a foreign power at the orders of Joseph Stalin to undermine the United States of America, and they defended mass murder, genocide, and war, and even a pact with Nazi Germany by Russia, all because they were ordered to by a foreign power. And so she had to be like, well, the really good communists, the salt of the earth types, those were the ones who just read the Daily Worker and cared about civil rights. And it is such small ball nonsense.
Well, I mean, I think we should all just think about communists of a bygone era, like Carrie Russell, like a suburban mom who does some killing for the Soviet Union on the side. He is Jonah Goldberg, National Review columnist, author of Liberal Fascism, The Tyranny of Cliches, and you can always catch his musings at nationalreview.com. Jonah, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Great to be here, guys. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.